Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. On a chilly autumn evening in October 1994, the small town of Millbrook, nestled in the heart of the Midwest, lay under a heavy quilt of silence. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the quiet streets. Families settled in for the night, unaware that the events about to unfold would shatter their peaceful existence and haunt their community for decades to come. At precisely 7:27 p.m., the shrill ring of a telephone broke the silence in the Miller household. Elizabeth Miller, a dedicated mother and teacher, answered with a smile, her voice warm and inviting. Minutes later, though, that smile faded. The conversation, casual at first, swiftly veered into darker territory as Elizabeth learned of the discovery that would change everything. A body had been found in a nearby wooded area. Panic bloomed in her chest as she glanced at her children, aged 10 and 8, playing innocently in the living room. The news of crime was something they had only seen in movies, not real life. As she hung up, a sense of dread settled over her like a winter fog. It was only a matter of moments before Millbrook would learn the identity of the victim. And with that, fear would seep into the town's very core. Miles away in that forsaken stretch of woods, a group of teenagers had stumbled upon the horrifying scene, their laughter turning to screams as they realized the grim reality before them. Nestled among the underbrush lay the crumpled form of a young woman, her life extinguished far too soon. Her name was Jennifer Luce, a local college student, loved and cherished by those who knew her. The search for truth had begun, but the darkness surrounding her death would prove to be more complex than anyone could have imagined. The victim. Jennifer Luce was not just a name making headlines. She was a vibrant soul filled with dreams, aspirations, and an infectious zest for life. Born and raised in Millbrook, her laughter was a familiar melody that echoed through the hallways of Millbrook High School. With her sparkling green eyes and boundless energy, Jennifer was known for her love of the outdoors and her unyielding spirit. Friends often described her as a beacon of light, drawing people together with her warmth. At 21, she was in her final year of college, pursuing a degree in environmental science. Her passion for the environment was evident, whether she was organizing cleanup drives in the local parks or engrossed in field studies along the riverbanks. In her social circle, Jennifer was a confidante, always ready to lend an ear or a comforting hug. She was the girl that everyone turned to, the one with the perfect advice or the most reliable shoulder to cry on. On the last day anyone would see her alive, Jennifer had been excited. She was preparing for a camping trip with a close group of friends. She left a cheery message for her mother, a reminder to water the plants, and promised to return after the weekend filled with laughter under the starlit sky. But beneath her bright exterior lay the trials of young adulthood, pressure of academic deadlines, budding relationships, and navigating the complexities of life. As the days dwindled since her disappearance, panic swept through Millbrook like wildfire. Friends and family banded together, filling social media with pleas for information, drenched in desperate hope. They would not rest until Jennifer was found. They could not fathom that her bright future had been snuffed out like a candle in the darkness. Unbeknownst to them, the very woods where she had found solace would soon become a haunting reminder of the fragility of life, each fallen leaf whispering secrets of an unspeakable tragedy. The crime scene. The morning of October 15th, 1994, dawned bleak and overcast, as though the sky itself was mourning. The loss of a bright star. As local authorities received the frantic reports of the body discovered in East Millbrook woods, the atmosphere shifted. A heavy pall hung over the town, punctuated only by the distant wail of sirens. Officers arrived on the scene, their solemn faces reflecting the gravity of what they were about to witness. The wooded area, normally vibrant with the colors of fall, felt eerily still. Treetops swayed gently in the wind, whispering secrets intended to remain forever unspoken. As the officers cordoned off the vicinity, a small crowd began to gather at the fringes, laden with trepidation and morbid curiosity. Each onlooker feared the worst. Their whispers carried on the wind, speculating who the victim might be. When the detectives stepped into the clearing, they were met with a sight that would haunt them for years. The lifeless form of Jennifer Luce lay sprawled among the fallen leaves, a tragic tableau that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. Her vibrant purple jacket, a hallmark of her youthful spirit, contrasted starkly against the earthy hues surrounding her. The undeniable violence that had led to her tragic end was evident, the remnants of a struggle etched into the landscape and mirrored in the victim herself. Detective Marcus Rain scrubbed a hand across his stubbled jaw, his heart heavy as he took in the scene. A seasoned investigator, he had seen too much loss. Yet each case was unique, each victim a poignant reminder of life snuffed out before its time. His tactical training kicked in. He began to piece together the details. Jennifer's belongings, a frayed backpack and scattered items, would offer inside sand, possibly clues sent to the events that led to her untimely demise. The forensics team arrived shortly after, methodically cataloging each element in the vicinity. Their meticulous approach signaled the start of a drawn-out investigation. But as Detective Rains cast one last, lingering glance at the scene before them, a chilling sense of realization washed over him. Millbrook would never be the same. And as he turned to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the cusp of something far more sinister than anyone expected. The early investigation. With the crime scene secured, the early hours of the investigation unfolded at a relentless pace. News of Jennifer Luce's death reverberated across Millbrook, rippling through the community like a shockwave. The local police department quickly mobilized a task force comprising seasoned detectives and fresh recruits eager to make their mark. Detective Marcus Rains was appointed lead investigator, a role he took to heart. The stakes were high and the pressure palpable. They owed it to Jennifer and a town to ensure justice was served. The first order of business was to establish a timeline. Officers fanned out across Millbrook, knocking on doors and interviewing anyone who had seen Jennifer in the days leading up to her disappearance. Friends were questioned, each interaction mingling hope and despair. Despite the cloud of uncertainty, some fragments of information began to emerge. Jennifer had attended a party the weekend before, a gathering of old friends from college, and was seen leaving with an acquaintance named Tom, a figure shrouded in ambiguity. Tom was quickly located and brought in for questioning. His demeanor was calm but guarded, every word carefully measured against the backdrop of a growing unease. As he relayed his version of events, the usual stories of laughter and music, And later, the murky depths of a missed connection. Detective Rains noticed inconsistencies slip through Tom's practiced facade. There was something unsettling hidden behind his eyes, an air of detachment apparent amidst the storm of emotions surrounding Jennifer's death. Meanwhile, forensic teams delved into the contents of Jennifer's backpack, searching for clues that might shine a light on her last hours. Among textbooks and a well-loved water bottle, a crumpled note caught their attention, a message scribbled hastily, hinting at a late-night rendezvous. The handwriting was unmistakably Jennifer's, yet it held an uncharacteristic urgency that suggested something was amiss. As leads turned to dead ends and friends were questioned multiple times, a sense of foreboding settled in. Rains could feel the weight of the town's expectations resting squarely on his shoulders. Millbrook wasn't just a backdrop for this tragedy. It was home, a place steeped in shared history. With each passing day, the shadows of doubt loomed larger, and the search for answers pushed deeper into the darkness. Urging Rains and his team to peel back the layers of a night that would change the course of their lives forever. Dead ends as days slipped into weeks. Each passing moment intensified the tension hanging over Millbrook. The investigation into Jennifer Luce's death spiraled into a maze of frustration, with Detective Marcus Rains meticulously tracing every lead that appeared a futile endeavor in a case riddled with dead ends. Unlike vibrant scenes from crime dramas, reality offered only veiled whispers of deception and fragments of intrigue. In the heart of the investigation room, pinned to the corkboard, were photos of Jennifer smiling in sunlit moments. Beneath them, brittle evidence paper chronicled each angle of the case. An occasional tip had emerged from the community, some earnest yet misguided, others tinged with malice. Rains sat across from a recent informant who claimed to have seen Tom with an unfamiliar woman at a gas station days after the end of the party. Yet, when presented with the details 1 week later, the witness faltered, unable to recall specifics that could tie Tom to Jennifer's fate. Each ounce of hope fizzled out further, and with it, the realization hit hard. Trust in the community was waning. Unspoken fear lingered in the air. Discouraging conversations among friends and neighbors, all too aware of the lurking shadow of a killer in their midst. The walls of Millbrook, once resonant with laughter, began to close in on themselves, wrapping the townspeople in an uneasy silence. Detective Rains decided to dig deeper into Jennifer's online presence, hoping to unearth conversations or connections that might have slipped past scrutiny. He combed through social media interactions and found exchanges with acquaintances that raised eyebrow massages, laden with flirtation from unknown numbers, some veering into discomfort. It appeared she had caught the attention of several men at college, each vying for a place in her life. But among the sea of adoration, Rains felt a bitter twist of uncertainty. Online persona could be deceiving. Not every admirer bore good intentions. And then, just as despair threatened to overshadow their efforts, a solid lead emerged. A local motorist contacted the police, claiming to have seen a woman matching Jennifer's description, arguing with a man beside a black pickup late one evening. The report provided a glimmer of hope, a direction to explore. Rain's heart raced as they raced to track down the vehicle, only to discover it had gone out of state weeks prior, its trail cold, the driver untraceable. Frustration mounted. Each piece uncovered only led them deeper into a labyrinth without exits. The walls of Rain's office felt more constricting by the day, a stark reminder that in the pursuit of justice, sometimes the answers remain just out of agony and waiting, time dancing with despair as the clock ticked ever onward. A break in the case. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a sliver of golden light across the cluttered desks of the Millbrook police station. A heavy silence enveloped the building, exhaustion palpable among the detectives. Yet, just as hope seemed an increasingly distant memory, a lifeline appeared in the form of Officer Jenna Bell, who stepped into the investigation room with an excited urgency that momentarily shattered the gloom. "I think I found something," she exclaimed, waving a thin folder in her hand. The room perked with anticipation as Rains, his anxiety momentarily lifted, flanked by fellow officers, turned their focus toward Jenna. "Remember that black pickup truck we were chasing?" I contacted the local licensing department. Tone of the plates matched. The offices brimmed with electric energy. Jenna laid out the evidence before a photograph of a vehicle and registration, details linking it to a man named David Carlos, a transient who had been passing through Millbrook the weekend Jennifer went missing. A specific address in a neighboring town heightened Rain's palsy chance to finally follow a tangible lead where previously there had only been speculation. With the swiftness of a countdown, Detective Rains assembled a small team and drove to the address, hope blossoming amid the despair. The air in the patrol car buzzed with expectation, a shift from the suffocating environment they had endured for weeks. As they reached the property, a rundown trailer surrounded by unkempt brush stood defiantly against the encroaching autumn chill. Rains knocked firmly on the door, bracing himself for whatever confrontation lay ahead. The moments stretched as the board creaked, finally revealing a disheveled man with eyes dulled by a perceived hardship. David Carlos took a step backwards, confusion apparent on his face, but Rains seized the moment. He introduced himself, watched the man's shifting posture, and pressed for answers. As the interaction unfolded, uneasy tension simmered beneath the surface. Rains observed Carlos's fidgeting hands and evasive gaze, sensing a smokescreen behind his scattered words. All at once, David's demeanor shifted. Under pressure, he fumbled and accused Rains of harassing him. But damning details began to seep through, mentioning the night Jennifer had gone missing tonight. Carlos claimed he had been just driving through, referenced an argument he'd witnessed between a girl and a man at the edge of the woods. "Sir, the earlier eyewitness. Wow. Whoa. I wait to see. Report." The investigators exchanged glances. This was new information. As Rains pressed on, the details grew murkier, yet within the gray haze, the detectives sensed they had struck a nerve. Jennifer's world collided with Carlos's shrouded reality. What had erupted into a fleeting night of chaos remained steeped in shadows. "Let us know if there is anything we can do," Rains echoed with conviction, hoping to tug at a strand of truth. What they had unearthed held the tantalizing promise of clarity amidst the disarray, a potential key to unlocking the secrets behind Jennifer Luce's tragic end. Little did they know this path would direct them into a tangled weave of motives, deception, and irrevocable ties. The suspect, Ajay. With David Carlos now central to their investigation, Detective Rains amassed a cadre of evidence, everything from records of previous offenses to witness statement sheets. Focus intensified as he began to unravel the threads of Carlos's life. Each detail painted a portrait of a transient life one that seemed rooted in obscurity yet was laced with unsettling encounters. Adding to their unease, Raines discovered an arrest record for assault linked to Carlos, a situation that whispered of violence lurking just under the surface. As the team delved deeper, they learned Carlos had been spotted near campus on multiple occasions, where he allegedly engaged with students at nearby establishments, a seemingly harmless wanderer, but one who had initiated uncomfortable interactions with several young women. It was precisely this pattern that had now embedded David deep into the reality of Jennifer's final days. Culling through interviews from college students, Raines unearthed a critical connection. Several reported being approached by Carlos during the party Jennifer had attended. A chilling portrait formed. A man who had not only visited their world but lurked at its fringes, perhaps laying plans to exploit a fleeting moment of vulnerability. With mounting urgency, Raines convened with his team and devised a platform for confrontation aimed at unraveling the truth that enveloped Carlos. Soon after, they arrested him at the trailer, the atmosphere electric with trepidation as the team gathered for his questioning. The interrogation room felt nearly claustrophobic. Its sterile walls bore witness to countless tales of manipulation and resolution, now transcending into the raw moments that lay before them. Carlos, initially defiant, was faced with the mounting pressure of circumstantial evidence. Witness statements, forensic reports, and the faint suggestion of his presence in the timeline surrounding Jennifer's disappearance. Yet, despite the mounting sense of inevitability, Carlos clung tightly to his narrative Ennean association, holding steadfast to a defense that oscillated between bravado and desperation. Raines worked methodically, prodding at cracks in the facade, bringing Carlos's contradictions to the fore. Each lie unraveled under scrutiny, but still, the man maintained strained composure. Just when the air in the room seemed stale with frustration, Raines shifted strategies. He framed a simple question, one delving into a personal facet of Carlos's life, the circumstances that had led him to Millbrook, the additional connections he seemed to dodge. For an instant, something flickered in Carlos's eyes, a vulnerability that suggested deeper layers of his story lay buried within a past too painful to articulate. It was as if the mask he wore tilted, revealing a glimpse of someone more intricate than the hardened exterior he presented. This moment hung in the air, pregnant with potential. Raines sensed that the breakthrough he had been hunting for was imminent. The weight of anticipation settled across the room, poised delicately between silence and revelation. What Carlos withheld could either free or condemn him, but whatever choice lay before him, Raines was ready. His growing resolve to uncover the truth would echo long after the conversation had ended, leading them further into the labyrinth surrounding Jennifer's last moments. The trial. Months of investigation culminated in the courtroom of Millbrook, a space transformed from its usual civil serenity to an arena fraught with tension and emotional gravity. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above as people filed in, taking their seats while murmurs reverberated through the wood-paneled walls. This was a community on edge, united by grief, yet divided by the complexities of the impending trial for David Carlos, a man accused of murdering Jennifer Luce, the vibrant young woman snuffed out before her promise could blossom. Detective Raines sat in the gallery, a steady presence amid the anxious faces of family and friends flanking him. The heart of the courtroom pulsed with discontent. They were here to witness the proceedings unfold, holding on to a fragile hope that justice would prevail. The defense and prosecution took their places at opposite tables, the atmosphere thick with unspoken intentions as the judge entered. As the trial commenced, the prosecutor outlined a case against Carlos. Each piece presented was meticulously calculated witness statements, painting a picture of a troubled man entwined with chaos on the night Jennifer vanished. The heart-wrenching details of her last days replayed in the courtroom, breathing life into memories that combined love, laughter, and ultimately loss. Rains took a deep breath. The rehashing of emotional moments struck a chord, but lingering anger blended with the investigative narrative nagged at him, boiling just beneath the surface. The defense attorney took aim, carefully dismantling the prosecution's case, arguing against circumstantial evidence and questioning every piece of testimony. No physical evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, the attorney pressed, voice dripping with skepticism. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath for if profound doubt began to settle. The scales of justice could tilt perilously. Then came the moment that would shift the balance. The prosecution called upon a key witness, Jenna Bell, to the stand. Officer Bell spoke with authority, her voice unwavering as she recounted the details that led them to Carlos and the discovery of critical evidence. The jury leaned in, captivated by her account, a candid portrayal of the investigation and the relentless passion of the team in pursuit of truth. As the testimony continued, the atmosphere thickened, every gaze locked onto Carlos. But as the days progressed, cracks began to appear in the prosecution's narrative. The defense expertly exploited uncertainty, probing into inconsistencies within witness statements, sowing seeds of doubt that began to fester. The air felt heavy with foreboding as emotions shifted. Were they closer to justice, or were they teetering towards exoneration? Emotions ran high in the courtroom. Family members of both Jennifer and Carlos stripped by the anxiety of the unknown. Cameras clicked, attorneys maneuvered, and Rains felt the weight of the community on his shoulders. He understood that for many, this trial represented closure, although the battle of perceptions escalated. As the final arguments were made and the jury prepared to deliberate, a heavy silence fell across the room. In that moment, Rains couldn't shake the feeling that the justice system was broken, that a collective hope was woven into the fabric of anguish that surrounded them. As he exited, he couldn't help but feel that no matter the outcome, the shadows of the past would linger long after the final gavel struck. In Millbrook, the echo of Jennifer Luce's name would continue to resonate, binding them together in a tapestry of unresolved grief and fervent longing for peace. The aftermath. The gavel echoed throughout the courtroom, a sound that reverberated not just in the confines of the building, but through the very essence of Millbrook. The jury's verdict hung heavy in the air, and a communal breath was held, a moment of collective anticipation, lingering just beyond the edge of certainty. When not guilty rang out, it felt as though the ground beneath everyone's feet had shifted, leaving fragments of hope scattered among the wreckage of disbelief and grief. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Reporters crowded the steps, relaying the decision to a nation transfixed by the trial's somber spectacle. The community of Millbrook was torn asunder, emotions bubbling over into the streets as disbelief morphed into anger and sorrow. Children who once played freely in these neighborhoods now had to navigate a burgeoning darkness, overshadowed by thoughts of violence that had invaded their quiet town. Detective Rains stood off to the side, just out of reach of the cameras and flashing bulbs, absorbing the fallout of the verdict. The crushing weight of failure hung on his shoulders. There had been no justice for Jennifer Luce, no peace for her family. As he watched friends and family of Jennifer dissolve into fits of anguish, he couldn't shake the feeling that the trial was merely the beginning of a deeper struggle, a bitter reminder of the complexities of the human condition. In the following weeks, the community attempted to heal, cautiously placing one foot in front of the other. Vigils were organized to honor Jennifer's life, her laughter woven into their collective consciousness. Flowers adorned street corners, local businesses displayed signs calling for kindness, and a scholarship was established in her name, aimed at empowering young women to chase dreams without fear. But beneath the guise of hope, Millbrook was left to grapple with an undercurrent of unease. The town uncovered its festering wounds, ripping the fabric of trust. No longer cloaked in innocence, whispers tinged with tension replaced small-town friendliness, and the question hovered: who could be trusted when darkness could hide in euphoric disguises? As weeks turned to months, Rains found himself ensnared in the wrenching aftermath. He returned to the woods where Jennifer had lost her life, hoping some semblance of solace might wash over him. The trees stood witness, their leaves falling like confessions at his feet. Alone among the whispers of rustling branches, he vowed to keep Jennifer's memory alive, advocating for those who could no longer speak for themselves. With time, Rains and his team would continue to investigate, not just for the case of one victim, but for all who lingered in silence. The haunting cries for justice would resonate through the halls of Millbrook, echoing in the hearts of those who sought change. As the town navigated its new reality, a shift began, a collective determination to demand accountability, to refuse complacency in a world marked by shadows that could never be fully extinguished. And so, even as the sun set over Millbrook, casting long shadows on the ground below, the light of Jennifer Luce remained a guiding force drawing them together, a touchstone for an unraveling community that desperately clung to hope. As the winds of hope, change began to stir. Reflection. In the wake of the trial, the haunting echoes of Jennifer Luce's case lingered in the hearts and minds of Millbrook residents. As Detective Rains continued his routine, he found that the struggle wasn't just the loss of a life cut short. It was the loss of innocence in a community that had believed itself safe, woven together through familiarity and shared laughter. He spent evenings walking the quiet streets, eyes sweeping the familiar houses bathed in golden light, thinking of the secrets held within each enclave, the cheeky laughter of children, the low hum of families gathered around dinner tables, and the invisible shadows lurking in corners now exposed. Conversing with a few of Jennifer's closest friends revealed the spectrum of grief woven into their daily lives. They spoke of the nights spent overshadowed by what-ifs, the ache of loss permeating intimate moments filled with bittersweet memories. They were left carrying the burden of unresolved questions, a reality that had given birth to a movement in her honor, transforming sorrow into bravery. Rains knew that his pursuit of justice hadn't ended with the trial's verdict. It had transformed. This was a time for vigilance, advocacy, and a united front against the lingering darkness, on unrefuted commitment to uncovering truths buried beneath layers of denial and fear. As winter approached, the town braced itself for change, a shift in perspective that transcended the anguish of what had been lost. Rains realized that each flickering candle lit in Jennifer's memory was not just a tribute, but a pledge to stand firm against the specter of silence that threatened to engulf them. They would not allow Jennifer's name to fade into the background. It would become their rallying cry for justice, a reminder that every heart holds a story worthy of being heard, understood, and honored.